Alright, here we have the Pioneer CS-A31. We'll be going ahead and removing the old capacitors and putting in some new ones. And we have a guest appearance from my cat. So, there you go. So the A31 has the variable crossover capacitor as well as the standard screws here for attachment for the speaker wire. Alright, here we have the big view of the insides of the speaker. Let's go ahead and move in a little closer. In front of us we have the tweeter. There. Here we have what they call the squawker. And lastly, the woofer. An impressive sized driver there. And what we're actually going to focus on today is this little beauty. You see a number of the coils, which we're going to leave alone. And here we have the capacitors, which we're going to change out. We change them out because these capacitors are about 40 years old. They're electrolytic capacitors, which tend to change and dry up over the years. So those need to come out, and we'll be replacing them with some foil capacitors in just a moment or so. The tricky part is that board is actually a piece of paper, so we have to go in, remove the old capacitors, and pry them up because they're stuck on the paper with glue, and then put the new capacitors in. Here's a close-up of the capacitors. You can see the capacitance written on them there. We have one with 14 microfarads, one at 1.6 microfarads. I can't find those, so we're going to have to do a little jury rigging to make our capacitors that we're putting in match those we're taking out. Alright, so one thing I've done is I've taken two capacitors, a 4 microfarad and a 10 microfarad, and put them in parallel versus they're next to each other connected versus in a series. So that should work well. I've soldered the ends there so the connection is good. Just one thing to note, that when soldering it's always best to have a heat sink between the capacitor and the solder point. That allows the wire to get nice and hot so you don't have a cold solder joint there without heating up and ruining the capacitor. Alright? And this is the 1.6. I have a 1.5 and a 0.1 again joined and soldered together. So I'm ready to put them into the crossover. These were obviously hand wired. That's two. Alright. I'm going to remove this wire here because it's in my way and replace it with a freshly cut one. There we go. Now these coverings are actually kind of slipped over bare wire, so if I can just pull them off, or I can cut off the top there for soldering. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, the crossover's finished. There's not enough space to actually glue them back down onto the crossover board, but I think we'll be fine. If I was fastidious, I probably would have put some shrink tubing on the capacitor electrode connections beforehand, but I have things widely spaced apart, so I don't expect any shorts to occur unless somebody severely drops the box, and if that happens, I expect that there'd be some more mechanical damage than a threat of a short. I've actually done this to the sister speaker, and you can tell a difference in the improvement of how the tweeter and squawkers perform. It's not a redoing of the whole system. It's not like a brand new speaker system. It's just a mild improvement in the higher tones.